The challenges of strong-willed Kenyans to survive a struggling economy are compounded by difficulties often created by their environment, seniors, and colleagues. The essence of a job to any human being is not just to foot bills, but to also find a purpose in their everyday living. This, however, is not the case for the majority of Kenyans who commute long distances under unfavorable weather conditions and at odd hours, hoping to better their lives. The fear of losing their job and falling into the high margin of unemployment silences them. The hustle and bustles of the busy streets can be overwhelming at times. The noise, the traffic, the constant movement can leave you drained and exhausted. But what about the silent killer that works behind closed doors? It's a silent epidemic that is affecting thousands of Kenyans each day. The issue of a toxic work environment is often swept under the rug despite its devastating impact on mental health, as the victims are often voiceless and unaware of the avenues to present their case. We take this opportunity to bring you a story of determination amidst a stressful environment, one that we hopefully believe will inspire you to play your part in ensuring a healthy working environment, seeing that the consequences of a toxic environment not only affects an individual, but flows down to destroying families and other relationships, ultimately leading to increased suicide cases. There are employees who choose to quit and seek better opportunities. However, quitting a toxic work environment does not guarantee that you will find a new job, let alone a better one. That is why it can take more strength to quit than to stay. Wainaina, an employee at the Technical University of Kenya, shares his work experiences with us in great detail. He tells us about the tough days and how he manages to navigate them to protect his mental health.
My name is David Wainaina, but I'm an administrator for the Department of Journalism and Media Studies. And my main role is making sure that students have a smooth transition during their campus life. So one of my major roles is inducting students. So when they come in year one, Stella and Eric and all these other guys, they came here at a time when they were fresh from high school. These guys could be, these guys had come from structure to no structure. Like there used to be timetables, 40 minutes for every class. You're in class every day of the week, Monday to Friday. So just break that cycle of, now you have the freedom to do what you want.
One of the groups that Wainaina deals with in his normal day's work is students. And given that it is a university, they range in age, but a majority, as he explains to us, falls in the age bracket of 20 to 30 years. According to Wainaina, cases of students claiming to have sat an exam when they actually did not can be frustrating, especially because he has to get to the bottom of it and verify.
My typical day would start during this graduation would start with, I'd get here normally very early because this is the time of the year when you find someone who didn't graduate 5 years ago decides this is a good time to come and find my missing marks. And as a student, we are here because of students basically. So the reason we do this is because we want to try not to leave anyone behind at the end of the day. Excuse me. So even if you didn't graduate, you missed your graduation 5-6 years ago, it's my responsibility to make sure that you graduate. If you've satisfied the conditions for graduation, then we will make sure that you graduate. So if it was missing marks and we verify that they were indeed missing marks, because there's a lot of students who come to us with stories of that, I did an exam, if I didn't see your name on the sign-in sheet, you didn't do my exam. If I didn't see your name on the mark sheets when the lecturers were submitting your marks, then it means you didn't do my exam. So these are just some of the procedures that we need to verify just to make sure that we're dealing with legit cases and just to sift legit cases from non-legit cases. because I'm sure there's a lot of guys who will also try to come and cut shortcuts, say I did something when they didn't indeed do it. And we're trying to actually put our records together just to make sure that this process is a bit easier and it is more professional and according to ISO. We've had some of these scenarios where we've had to delay students maybe for a whole year, and it's been very frustrating for them. But the good thing we can pride ourselves with is making sure that we are all on the same page, that they understand that as much as this is an administrative problem, we are owning up to the problem, like it is our problem, and we acknowledge that it is our problem. Because most of the time you find students have issues of contention with the administration because the administration does not want to admit liability. Yeah, it does not want to admit that, you know, we were on the wrong this time. And it's okay, it's very normal for people to be on the wrong because it's something that happens everywhere actually. Yeah, so I think the first step in making sure that we can bridge the gap between these issues is just ensuring that there is openness. If we mess up, we need to acknowledge that we've messed up, and we need to let these people know that we're willing to make sure that we do not repeat the same mistakes again in the next academic year. This is the challenging part generally, because we find that unlike private institutions where there is there's a process to things, in public institutions there's a process, but it is not clearly laid out. So people know what they're supposed to do, people know where they're supposed to be, but being able to keep tabs and make sure that these people are being productive in their particular areas is the difficult part. Yeah. So we find that when we engage lecturers or lecturers on temporary terms, we try to make sure that their terms and conditions are clearly outlined in the document that they will sign, because every lecturer who is a part-time lecturer receives a document. So it's standard procedure. We would like to engage your services for maybe a year, 2 years, depending on the length of the contract. We will give you terms. This is how much we want to pay you, or we are willing to pay you rather. And the contract will run for the duration of maybe a year, 2 years. These are the terms and conditions. Do you agree? If you agree, then you will sign the dotted line and, you know, we move on. But in some cases, we usually have cash crunches. And we've experienced this because it's 2023 right now. I'm sure this weekend, or if you guys watch the news, we've heard that the government is struggling with cash right now. So you find that it's not a new problem, it's a problem that has always been there. So monies are disbursed, but they are sometimes not enough to cater to the part-time needs of the lecturers that we have. So you find that sometimes money might be released, but it is only enough to pay the staff that are maintained on a permanent basis, as opposed to maybe on a part-time or a contractual basis. Yeah, and sometimes these issues happen. It is normal in public institutions. The only issue that I think we may need to improve on is making sure that we do not sideline these guys, or we hire within our capacities. Yeah, we don't overstretch our capacities. And also it's evident in other resources and other departments. We may need to also try and reduce our expenditure in some areas, or at least try and create a balance so that we don't find we're spending too much in one area and ignoring or neglecting other areas. Yeah, so I think that's the main challenge that we have, is just maybe ensuring that there's a balance between monies for part-timers and money that is intended to maybe perform other functions in the university. So there's some places where I've worked, and you find that because you're a junior, you end up taking most of the workload, as opposed to maybe people who are in middle management and who are in senior management. And this is usually as a result of failure to outline work processes. So if I know that as I am, maybe this is David, he's supposed to, if it's an IT guy, he's supposed to fix computers, he's supposed to diagnose network issues, etc., etc. You find that this person is also tasked with doing other work that is not in their job description. which ends up making people feel very drained at the end of the day. So you find that you are performing multiple tasks that are not in your allocated job description. Yeah. So this makes you, at the end of the day, you might feel that there's a lot of frustration behind, I'm not getting my worth. Yeah. Maybe I'm working 10 hours a day and I'm only getting maybe worth 6 hours a day of pay. So the extra 4 hours is on me. Yeah. I need to make up for the difference. So this is a major challenge because there's mornings where I would wake up and I feel like I did not want to go back to work because I felt that yes, it's work, but it's not very healthy work. Yeah, because you find you're carrying loads that are more than you can withstand or bear. Yeah, so it happens, but I guess like in high school there was this analogy where Form 1s or the ones who used to clean the floors. Yeah, I think it's a culture that has been inculcated into us from way back when. Even if you're in a family structure and you have more than one sibling, firstborn, and you are younger, you guys need to forgive here. You need to do this. There's that hierarchy of things. So, and I think it has contributed a lot to us not taking responsibility at our individual levels for the actions that take place in an institution. I think, I just mentioned earlier, that there's some behaviors that have been entrenched in us from a very early age. Yeah, and this is extended to the area of responsibility. So it's something that you don't pick these habits up when you're an adult. It usually starts from the formative ages. When you were younger, were you held accountable for your actions? So you find that as people grow, these responsibilities may not necessarily manifest themselves in their work activities or in their work ethic, because these are people who are accustomed to lives without repercussions. There was no consequences for your failure to act on a certain issue. Yeah. So if maybe you didn't clean your room, your mom didn't pinch you. If you didn't wash the car, or if you didn't take the ukupeleka takataka, you didn't get any punishment or any form of reprimand. Yeah. So I think that's also what is happening here in terms of the office not getting cleaned. Because this is a person who knows that this is their duty, this is what they're supposed to do, this is what they are being paid to do, but they simply just choose to ignore the task. And I think as we move along, because we are the parents of the future generation, we need to also teach the people we live with. If you have nieces, nephews, if you have children at home, neighbors' kids, I know, but sometimes neighbors' kids might be a bit of a sensitive topic. Wazazi squeezy a bit, my child is my child. Yeah, but any chance you get, please try and help your juniors understand that there is repercussions and consequences for actions, and also to try and inculcate the culture of responsibility. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen, if you're in a matatu, niko mmeona mtu anakunywa juice, anarusha hiyo mkebe nje, or you have a snack and you throw the wrap outside. We need to try and, it starts from an early age. This person doesn't know that this is a wrong thing to do. Yeah, but if we start from when they are young, if we teach them that don't throw that piece of paper outside the window, don't throw any wrappers, keep them until you get to a place where you can dispose of them. And I think it would also help with some of these issues that we are seeing in terms of negligence. Yeah, because I'm not saying this guy wasn't raised right, but I'm sure if he understood the value of what he needs to do, then he would not ignore his duties. In the private sector, you find that these processes, these checks and balances, there's a procedure that needs to be followed. For us in the public sector, there are those processes, and we have actually very good processes in terms of what needs to be done. I think implementation is where we have a problem. Yeah, because we know that if you have a problem with maybe your fees and any fee-related issue, you're supposed to visit the finance. But we have this issue where there's a lot of trading of blame. So a student goes to finance, they are told that we can't handle your issue, go back to the school. The school asks the student, go to the department. Then the department, I receive a case and I'm like, yo, so what am I supposed to do here? This is a money issue. I have nothing to do with money. Yeah. But at the end of the day, this student will only get assisted if I go down there as an administrator and explain to them that this is what this student needs, and it is this and this and this that is missing, you know. And then on their end, they realize, yeah, but this is actually a finance issue. We just didn't want to take our time to listen to it. But in actuality, if we did do our jobs and if we were doing what we are supposed to be doing, then this student wouldn't have to have been given a runaround, like go back to your school, department, and all those other places in between. If there was someone who was actually, let me put this in Kiswahili, kumakinika, yeah? Kama kuna mtu anamakinika kwa kazi yake, they will understand that this is my responsibility to sort out this student. As long as it is a financial issue, I need to find out the root cause of the issue and ensure that I am being of help to this student. Yeah, I just don't dump them and let the next person who is concerned sort them out. The same applies to administrative processes. If I know it is an issue that I am supposed to sort out, I will not ask you to go to the school. Yeah, I will not ask you to go to the academic registrar unless it is an issue that is beyond me in terms of my administrative clearances, because there's administrative work that a department can handle that is beyond, and sometimes is work that is beyond their scope in terms of clearances. So if it's issues of reinstatement, I may be the one who will initiate the process from the department in conjunction with my boss. But anything beyond that point is up to the other administrative arms of the university. So if these arms do not function in the way that they are supposed to, or if the departments and these other administrative offices do not take the responsibilities to handle student queries, then this would be it culminates in a lot of problems in terms of the flow. So if I get to D and I start getting frustrated and ask to go back to C or B, when I'm supposed to be moving forward, then that creates a problem even for students. And that's why you find public institutions are losing students to private institutions, yeah, because we find that private institutions are taking this education thing more seriously. They're treating you guys as their clients. You guys are just not simply students, you're clients, yeah. The same way banks treat their clients. If you're a valid client, we will make sure if you want a checkbook, we'll give you a checkbook. If you need a loan, we'll give you a loan. You know, so we need to treat students, public institutions need to treat students more like clients as opposed to just students and revenue generating. You know, this is just someone who's giving me money. Yeah, we need to create value for the service that we are providing. That's what will make people also come back to public institutions.
Fanuel Mwita, a member of SATUC studying industrial and applied chemistry at the Technical University, however, argues it is the institution that makes his work impossible. According to him, a number of seniors and his colleagues make it frustrating and impossible for him to deliver on his mandate as a leader.
My name is Fanuel Mwita. I am a student at the Technical University of Kenya. My area of expertise, I am a student leader in the Student Association of the Technical University of Kenya. I am a school representative, or what we call the Congress man for the School of Chemistry and Material Science. This is my first year being in the SATUC organ. Previously, I have held positions like class representative. Generally, being a student representative, you have to air your views, the views of the students to the bigger organ, that is the entire school, those who are in top positions. During my time as a school representative, there are so many challenges, of course, that have to be there. But first, before I get there, describing what a clean environment is, one that is not toxic. Generally, you expect things to be running smoothly. There should be finances, funds, whenever you have an event maybe to hold. Like you expect student problems to be sorted out within the minimum of time. You don't have to be up and down every time to the director's office. I don't know, every time you have to be in the chief finance's office looking for money. You know, those are some of the things I expect to be running smoothly for me. But then during my time, I can give a scenario. I've been trying to organize a tour, a school tour, what you usually call an educational trip. So specifically this one, I've been trying to organize it to Mombasa, 3 of the companies for my class, that is Industrial and Applied Chemistry. But then along the way, there has been a problem, a very big problem. Describing it smoothly, I've been trying to run it up and down since late last year, around November, up to this period. We are almost in April, going to May. I've been rescheduling over and over, writing to these companies requesting that they reschedule, because we've been having challenges of finances. It's not like there is no finance. There's been money, but then I don't know what is usually the bureaucracy which is usually happening along the top officials. You would actually go to one of those offices, you be turned down, you go back. Your director tries to help you, but then also gets stuck along the way. So generally it's been so hectic. Even these companies actually take it as a joke. Like even getting an opportunity for attachment itself would be a very big problem in such companies, you know. Big companies, I can give an example. We have KenSalt Mombasa, we have Kenya Petroleum and Refinery Mombasa. They ain't small companies. Some of the largest companies giving out revenues to Kenya. So it has been a hell of up and down, trying to run. It has actually affected me. Physically, I think I've been losing calories, to be realistic, because I've been working. It's like every week I have to be in school to make sure to ask, director, how is this going? So far, tell me, have you talked to Sanda, Mr. Sanda? Has he agreed to our proposals? Did you send the requisitions? So many questions. And then you get one hell of an answer. There is no money, you know? And then you feel emotionally depressed. That's one thing I've been feeling myself. And then you go to students. Sometimes you don't even want to talk to them. But then students are like, Funwell, Congressman, what is happening? You know, you, as a leader, what you've been told, you always have to give hope, even when there is no hope. You're like, relax, guys, we are really working on this. This will happen. We're really working on it. By next week, let's hope so, something will be out. Next week, you get to another scenario again. There's no money. So you become emotionally drained. You become emotionally drained. Sometimes you even lack transport to go back to school, because you're being told there's no money, there's no money. But if I were to urge the organs at the top, I would actually encourage for a very strong student association. I think we are in a period where the student association is actually becoming weaker and weaker, because some of them are actually manipulated by the top organs, the admin. Some are sleeping with admin, and I can't lie. Some are actually snitches. You want to operate something, you want to organize an event, You want to lobby for funds to do something, and then in the end, there's no unity because people want to get away with it. They want to sleep with admin because of cheap money. In the end, we don't even do something for comrades. So I would actually urge for a very strong student association, SATUC, that is, and then if we can have unity and cohesion among students, I would highly encourage that. So I would actually urge for a very strong cohesion among students. And students, whenever we have a challenge, please come out in numbers, tell us our mistakes. Like recently, I saw students asking for Kamkunji. Kamkunji is just a get-together of student association with the common student. You ask them their challenges. They tell you this and that needs to be done. They tell you where you need to improve. You work on it. So it's like nowadays you're having that problem, and especially because we are located in the CBD, most of us do not come from the hostels where, like in University of Nairobi, you just call students abruptly and then they turn up. Here in TUK, of course, that is a challenge. But then when we have a comrade power together with the student association, it works well. Even the administration itself readily supports that. So generally, I'm still working on myself, trying to uplift myself mentally from such kind of illnesses so that we can have a better student representation where there is money in time for the events. Parties, of course. Of course, students need to always have parties.
The responsibility of ensuring a healthy work environment is always tasked to the employer. But what happens when the conditions hold them both at ransom? Sospita Dalu, a director and contractor at Dilan Enterprises Limited, tells us that a toxic work environment not only drains the employee, but the employer as well, as it makes it difficult for the employee to fully execute their duties.
My name is Sospita Dalu. I'm one of the directors of Dilan Enterprises Limited. It's a construction company based in Kenya. We majorly deal in residential houses, and as such, given the movement of staff from one location to another, we found ourselves at some point having to live within the locality of where we are working, and therefore it brings about a bit of challenges within the workers and the locality we are in, because we only move with the skilled staff, and we tend to absorb the non-skilled staff from the locality based on where we are at any one time in a year. I've been in the construction industry for the last almost 10 years, mostly having to work under other people for some time before we formed the company, and therefore we've been able to work in Nyahururu, Garissa, Lamu, Kwale, Kakamega, and over time there have been those who've been with for a long time, but some have been on and off in the work environment. And in the construction industry, the biggest challenge would be being far away from family, given the movement that we experience in the construction industry. We are not a manufacturing industry in which we are it's a factory in one location. Therefore, that movement may cause few challenges, especially being away from family for some time, and also having to quickly adapt with the local staff, because we only get to move our skilled laborers. We rely on the skilled laborers we rely on the local environment to provide us with the unskilled laborers, and therefore having to gel in with them in a very short time can be a bit of challenging, because you do not know their personalities, a bit of cultural challenges, and as well as just the perception of the work, also in terms of gender. Example would be having worked in Kiambu County, in a matriarchal society as it is, you will find men and women being almost equally in the field, as opposed to if we move to the western part of the country, where there are more men in the industry than women. And as such, if you are moving around with staff, they have to adapt to understand that in a particular location, you'll find women going toe-to-toe with men, but in another location, women take a lesser role, and as such, there may be a bit of challenge in terms of how they respond and how they react or behave around such. The biggest challenge in terms of our work environment culturally has to do with basically the distance from families, and at some point, if not all the time, it can breed a lot of strain in family relation, especially for the married and the ones with kids, in terms of the presence of the father in the family, and also basic just issues of trust that may develop because of the long distance. But given the nature, all the role of the husband or the father to provide, sometimes we don't have a choice to move. In order to try and reduce or mitigate such challenges, as a company, what we try to do is to ensure that staff do not stay on site, especially if we are moving away from where their family are based, in which most of them are based in Nairobi. If we move outside the Nairobi environment, which we've been for the last like 2-3 years, constant communication is key. So one of the key elements is to be able to provide Wi-Fi network so that they can be able to communicate, especially on video call with their families. Secondly, is to be able to provide a rotational schedule in which employees do not stay on site for more than 4 weeks maximum. Therefore, for every 4 weeks, they get to travel back to be with their families for at least 4 to 5 days or maximum 1 week, and then report back. In case where there are logistical challenges, for example, in Lamu, we just take a break as a whole group for a week or two and then resume back. But where the transport or connection to Nairobi is not an issue, it makes it easy to have a rotational, in which case we always have 2 or 3 leave and make it easy so that they also they're able to be in touch with their families as well as continue to provide for them as well. Yes, the biggest challenge I would say is when we are very far away from home. In case of Lamu, as an example, where we had to be away for more than 3 months, and this had partly to do with the year 2021 when we had the COVID-19, and where there was a lot of restriction on movement, and therefore get back to their families was a bit of a challenge. It brought a lot of family strain in terms of kids being away from their parents, from their fathers, and schools having been closed, and the biggest issue was about just family breakups, which was very eminent. And initially, when we went to work in Lamu, we did not anticipate to stay for so long. The biggest challenge, as I'd say, was with the logistics. Just getting materials on site took a toll on the work, and therefore meant that we could not finish the work as soon as we thought we would. And traveling back from Lamu to Nairobi, it's a 14-hour road trip, which is very strenuous. And as a result, we felt it was easier for us to finish the work and come back. That meant that we were there for 3 months before we took a 2-week break and went back for another 3 months, and then took another 2 weeks break, and then finally finished it up in another 2 months. So it was literally an 8-month work project, which we hoped we would have been able to do in less than 4 or 5 months.
So Speter explains that in the construction industry, wages are typically paid on a weekly basis. However, this can sometimes be a challenging process, especially when the client delays the release of funds. When the funds are finally made available, they are often in the form of a check, which can take additional time to mature.
The other challenge has always been the issue of when there's a case of probably a delay in payment. Most of them are not that patient, and you tend to have cases of staff revolt, and therefore choosing the right people who can be patient, because it can be a matter of few hours or just a slight delay. That has always been a bit of a challenge, and most of them are into getting rich quick kind of issues, so they tend to gamble a lot, and they live on a hand-to-mouth basis without having a saving culture. So trying to instill in them that they could be able to actually save. If they work for a month or two, they can be able to save to last them another 1 month is a bit of a challenge. They spend what they've earned in a week, and if the next week they do not have a work, they are basically back to being broke. So that is just one of the challenges of having to deal with them. That's a bit of a challenge because I'm literally, let's say, at the top of it, and they don't get to experience maybe the pressure or the stress that I endure. And it basically boils back down to maybe at a family setting. Maybe that is the only point where I can be able to level up, because trying to level up with them may not be necessary, may not be possible, because they don't understand. I'll say so. Most of them really don't understand, because once you call them for work, they expect to be paid. So any delay or any inconsistency in pay will be an issue, and they will not understand anything to do with Mother Nature. For example, in our industry, suppose you assign work and it rains on that particular day. Even if they work half the day, they still expect full pay. If there's any delay in supplies, say of material to site, they don't consider that their problem, and so you tend to have to deal with such kind of losses. It calls for a lot of planning beforehand, so that you mitigate such kind of cases, try to minimize them to as much as possible. And therefore, if I anticipate there will be any delay, I'll rather release the staff early enough than have to deal with the case of they will not understand. You call them to work, so they'll bring the case of, if you were not ready, you should not have called me. But at the point of asking for a job, that is not always what's in their mind, because they need to earn. So they work on a no incident free environment, which is kind of difficult in any working environment. They work on in a no incident free mentality, in terms of no delays. Literally, they don't they don't expect to incur any loss on their part. Let me put it that way. They don't incur any loss. So any loss is your problem, which is a bit of a big challenge. And also trying to explain to them government policies in terms of taxes, their obligations is a bit of a big challenge. If you try to explain to someone they need to pay their taxes, they will not understand. So at some point, you literally have to put your foot down on them, and to explain to them is either it's done this way or there's no work. Over time, maybe it takes a little bit of convincing and education, but it's still a challenge. One way the government can be very helpful is that the government is not the biggest employer, it's the private sector. And the government needs to literally protect the private sector from collapse. One of the biggest challenge, I would say, is the laws and regulations are mostly set up as a revenue generating mechanism for the government. And if it's not generating revenue, it becomes more of an extortion avenue for the enforcers. Example in terms of you could have all your paperwork done, approval, but that does not guarantee you an easy working environment to literally finish your work with no incidences. So I'll say, given that for any one project, for example, if it's a residential house with a budget of say 15 million, all that money goes completely into buying supplies and paying workers. If you give it a room of say maximum 10% profit, which can go to waste, and you find the environment is not that conducive in terms of regulations, timelines, and every other, it becomes a bit of a challenge to be able to achieve what is required within the time limit that's been provided. So the government needs to literally protect and help, especially the upcoming industries or companies, to be able to grow. As maybe have been witnessed, most startups die or collapse within the first 2 years because of the regulations. It's very difficult to be able to meet all the requirements at a first time basis. So they need to give room for growth in terms of regulation. What are the basics that you need to meet in the first year, in your second year of operation, third year, and probably by the 10th or 5th year, you will have met all regulations.
According to Sospeter, factors such as gender, tribe, race, and education levels also play a role in the construction industry. He explains that he has often encountered irritable female clients who feel that their opinions are disregarded by his employees based solely on their gender.
The level of socialization is affected by a level of education. In this manner, I mean, most of them are influenced by their culture, and to literally be able to diffuse their cultural bias is a bit of a challenge, because when most of them have not been able to go beyond secondary school level, you will find that both their primary and secondary may have been in a localized environment. And as such, their view to especially their position of women in the society and in the work environment is looked down upon. Okay, when it comes to dealing with the staff, one of the biggest challenge is having them to stick to clients' preferences and tastes. And since most of them are biased towards what they think is right or what they think is good, they tend not to follow instruction unless you have to be there. And as such, one of the reasons that I have to let go of some of them is asking them to do one thing in terms of what the clients want, and someone having to take it upon themselves to try and explore what they think is good or to their best taste, not realizing or not taking into account that it's a client or it's the owner's house or project, in which case whether it's the color to be used or any other, it has to stick to what they would want, not what the staff likes.
A toxic work environment can differ based on gender, and for many women, this means facing belittlement due to their gender, experiencing sexual harassment, and dealing with environments and schedules that are not accommodating to pregnant and lactating individuals. Mercy narrates a harrowing experience of how she nearly got raped, were it not for the mere lack of a colleague who heard her scream while passing near the gents' washroom where her supervisor had dragged her.
Hi, my name is Mercy and I would like to share my story on sexual harassment at the workplace. I work in a tailoring company a few kilometers from my home. The ongoing court case is a sad experience I had that led to the firing of my supervisor and a court case that is yet to be concluded. During our break, this supervisor once grabbed and dragged me into the men's toilets where he tore up my clothes and almost raped me had a colleague not heard me screaming. I had filed a complaint to the HR earlier. As the same supervisor had sent me inappropriate photos and kept on stalking me. I am glad and lucky that upon reporting and filing a police report, action was taken on him and the management developed a policy on prevention of sexual harassment.
Mercy's case is not unique, as it is widely replicated in workplaces where seniors tend to sexually exploit their juniors and fire them if they refuse to comply. Investigative pieces by various media houses have greatly exposed this vice, with the most recent piece being by BBC Eye, which exposed supervisors who demanded sexual favors from Kenyans seeking work in tea farms in Kericho. Lillian Nganga, a technician and mother of two, including a newborn, opens us up to another factor that heavily determines a healthy work environment for women. This is the availability of an accommodating environment for expectant and lactating mothers who need to balance their responsibilities between young families and jobs.
My name is Lillian Ngumo. I'm a technician in Technical University of Kenya, and I work in the journalism department in the studio. I'm a mother of two kids who are young. One is 3.5 and the other one is 4 months. And being a mother, it's not very easy, considering you are expected to be at work each and every day from Monday to Friday, 8 to 5. It has not been very easy since especially when you have a newborn. It's not easy. That newborn needs you more hours. So it has been an issue because you need to leave home before 8. Actually, you need to leave by 6:30 so that you are at work by 8. And that time, you find the newborn has not even woken up. And you would expect to breastfeed him before you leave. So that has been a challenge because I leave him as he has not breastfed so that I can be at work by 8. And then you come work the whole day and you leave at 5. Now, between workplace to home, there's also another challenge of traveling. And you know how town life is. There's traffic. You go to the bus stop, there are no buses. So by the time you're getting a bus, it's 5:30. By the time you get home, it's 6:30. So now you're getting home at 6:30. That's the time now you have time with your baby, breastfeeding him. So what you see is that you have very few hours with your baby because the longest time you are working. So that has been a challenge. You find you don't even know your babies well, you don't have time with them. So that is one of the challenges, that you have no time with them, you have no time to breastfeed them.
Lillian further expounds on the obstacles posed by unreliable house helps who hold most working mothers ransom, knowing their need to balance between work and jobs.
Another challenge we have as young mothers is house helps. That's another challenge. You find you have left your house help at home with your children, and then you might, at times you can see her call. She calls you and tells you, hey, you know what, I'm leaving, and you're at work. You can imagine how stressful that is. You know your babies are small and she wants to leave them and you're at work. So what do? It's a very tough issue dealing with house helps because they leave any time, or they can even wake up one morning and say, by the way, I'm leaving. And that time, yes, we are preparing to go to work, and then she wakes up and tells you, I want to leave. So it's an issue because you need to first, either you call at work, ask for permission, and maybe there's some work you're expected to do and deliver by the very day. So it is actually very difficult. As mothers or young mothers, we face in our workplace, because when you're lactating, you find that if you stay for long without breastfeeding or lactating or expressing, that is, you find that you'll have a lot of milk that might affect you, and it will affect you in this sense that you become engorged and your breast become painful in a way that you can't be able to work, or even you can't relax. You will always be feeling that you want to leave, or you want to leave, go breastfeed or express. And since the environment that we are in our workplace can't allow you to do that, there's no space for lactating mothers that has been created for mothers either to express or even breastfeed. And I remember some years back, the government had insisted that institutions should have spaces for lactating women. But if you go around many institutions, they don't have that spaces. I only know of one, that is Safaricom, that has that facility for those mothers, which really helps, because they'll have time, breaks in between their work, they'll have breaks to go express. And I hear you can even carry your baby with you so that you can have time to breastfeed in between the breaks. And another problem that comes with staying a whole day without breastfeeding or expressing, you'll find that you will not have more milk, because you're supposed to express more regularly or breastfeed so that there will be flow of milk. But now when you stay without expressing or breastfeeding, you'll find that your milk will continue reducing, and now thus making your baby not have enough milk. Another challenge is you're supposed to have time even for a healthy meal. And at workplace at times you can be able to have a very healthy meal during that period that you're at work. So you find that even what you are feeding your child with is not very healthy. Now until you wait to go home and eat healthy. So those are the challenges that we really face as mothers.
Lilian Nganga raises an issue that has long been known to the public. Maternity leave in Kenya is only 3 months long, which can make it difficult for mothers to meet the government's recommendation of exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. This means they must be separated from their babies before the recommended time is up.
We really urge that the employers can really consider the mothers so that these mothers can have those spaces for expressing and breastfeeding, and also they can be considered to be going either that mother comes a bit late or a bit later in the day, and also leave a bit earlier in the evenings so that they can have time with their children, and so that they can be able to have a good meal which will make their baby grow healthy. And as we all know, a child is supposed to breastfeed excessively for 6 months continuously without even giving them any other food. So you find if this mother is not eating healthy, does not have enough time with this child, the child might not have enough, might not grow very healthy. Because you find mothers now introducing their children or their babies to food before the 6 months, which is not supposed to be the case. It's supposed to be breastfeeding all the way for 6 months. So if the employers, through all the institutions that have mothers, I would urge that whatever the government had insisted about the spaces for those lactating mothers, I think that one the government should really push for it to be there, and also giving the lactating mothers time to be with their babies. Another thing that we would urge the employers to do is give these lactating mothers a good environment, which is stress-free. Because once a lactating mother is stressed, you'll find that the stress cuts off or reduces the flow of the milk. That's making now the baby now to suffer because now the mother is not able to breastfeed. So that is what we would urge, that these mothers, if they are working, even the people, their colleagues, at times because you'll find issues. You are having issues with colleagues, they are not giving you a good environment. So even the colleagues, these mothers, give them a good environment, relate with them well, don't stress them, and help them where you can go to help them. Don't even overburden them with a lot of work. If you're able to help them so that they can have a relaxed environment which is relaxed, and they can be able to work well and also take care of their families and their babies well without stress.
Despite the Health Act of 2017, which requires employers to support breastfeeding women by establishing lactating stations in the workplace and providing flexible working hours, the achievement of this is a far cry from reality half a decade later. Safaricom, the highest-ranked employer in Kenya, sets a great example by providing clean lactation stations and storage spaces to their breastfeeding female employees. This allows for the safe storage of expressed milk, ensuring that the baby is well fed and the mother has a good flow. Another challenge that often compounds employees' struggles involve commuting to their workstations. This can be especially difficult and even traumatic for those who rely on public transportation. A good case scenario is that of Anita Nderu, a media personality that came out and spoke of having been sexually harassed in a matatu.
My name is Anita Nderu. I am 27 years old. I work in Nairobi, Kenya as a TV presenter and radio news anchor. In Nairobi, the public transportation is the best way to get around, and it's what most people use anyway. You either take a taxi or you just take the matatu, which is cheap as well. You can actually save a lot of money. There's incidences where there'll be the people in the matatu who may not necessarily be the best citizens. I have been harassed twice in a matatu and once in a taxi. It's a story that I'll have to remember for the rest of my life, which is not fair. I have used matatus twice since the incident. I'll never be 100% comfortable as I was before. They all happened during the day. It was on my way to work. So my thoughts were somewhere. So I was just kind of sitting, facing the opposite direction, just holding onto my bag. And then I just felt something cold on my left boob. And I looked down and I see a hand and I follow the hand. And it's this man. He just stuck his hand into the sweater, into the bra, and he's just hanging onto my boob. I'm like, what are you doing? Get your hand out of my boob. I'm trying to get his hand out. He says to me, but why do women have boobs then? Are they not there for us to touch them? It's the most helpless feeling because it's like, it's not fair. You can't just touch someone without them giving you the permission to do that. And so he finally removes his hand and I'm shouting for the conductor and I'm like, this man is grabbing me. You will never believe what he's done. And I'm telling the conductor what has happened. And the conductor says to me, there's nothing I can do. As soon as the matatu came to a halt, this man pushes my legs and he gets out and he walks out of the matatu. And then I got out of the matatu and I just stood outside there and cried and cried and cried. Not one person asked me, why are you crying? And people just walked by and I'm talking to my dad on the phone and I'm crying against the typical city life. Everybody is in a hurry to go somewhere. You have to be a caring human being. If you see somebody hysterical on the street because something has happened to them, take a minute and find out how they're doing. This is unacceptable.
Anita's story is one of many women who commute using these privately owned minibuses called matatus, as over half of the female population has in one way or the other experienced gender-based violence while aboard. In 2014, a video went viral after a woman was captured getting stripped on a bus leading to a national protest. There are organizations that understand the challenges that come with commuting to work for their employees and have invested in buses that help them ferry employees to and from work at reasonable fees and within given timelines. Unlike those who have found ways to maneuver toxic work environments, Mandy reached her end after working for 6 years in an organization within the capital city. You will think it had been all rosy, given that she was there for half a decade. Sadly, however, Mandy paints a mentally draining environment that had her crying through her duties on most of her days and often getting home angry and too emotionally drained to attend to her children.
Since I joined this organization, I have worked under one supervisor and over the years, I have seen how inhuman he is. He doesn't know how to address his juniors and constantly belittles us. It's been really tough working under him, but since he's a boss, we're afraid of standing up for ourselves. You see, personally, I am a quiet person, and I rarely speak even when things are thick. And this has greatly affected me health-wise, as I have to take painkillers because of the endless migraines. I find myself crying when I get home because that's the only time I'm allowed to show my emotions. You know, I'd have quit this job by now, but getting another job is quite hard, and these streets are tough, so I always hope for a better tomorrow. Why continue working in a place that does not even appreciate your hard work? You will continue working in that toxic environment, not knowing that you're literally harming yourself. Even if I don't get another job immediately, at least I'm not working in a place that makes me feel demotivated.
The case of Mandy is just one among millions. Her options to seeking a solution were limited and would end up victimizing her father, so she opted to quit even though she had no idea how she would foot for her bills. The mental state of Kenyans at their workplace is impacted by numerous other factors that begin from the moment they wake up from their beds to the minute they arrive at their workstations, which is why it is important for employers to consider providing mental wellness avenues such as guidance and counseling departments or specialists. Eric Njenga, a human resource officer at the Technical University of Kenya, takes us through the various challenges witnessed in his line of duty and the avenues provided for employees at the institution.
My name is Eric Njenga Wainaina. Yes, I'm an administrative officer working at the Human Resource Department. Well, my background is in finance, but I'm in HR working with different kinds of payments. Yes, basically that is just a bit of my roles that I work in HR. Toxicity in a work environment is where, let's say, colleagues are not in, let's say, they are in a misunderstanding. They are not understanding each other, or let's say they are, what can we say, they're different. Let's say because of not understanding their roles, different stuff, the work environment can become toxic because of even misunderstandings and lack of respect. Yes, those are some of the things that can make a working environment be toxic. So here at HR, we receive different kinds of complaints. One of them being that their work toxicity in different departments. We've had several cases, though not so many. One of the cases was because one staff was not able to handle her own issues, or let's say we can say the staff had a misunderstanding with another colleague, and the issue escalated such that the staff was unable to come to the work, his department or even his work area. How it was remedied is that the two staff had a sit down with also the HR director, and also the issues were put across, and also some counseling was done, especially because the toxicity, as it was noticed, it was something that something was about depression. Depression was probably the major factor that led to that toxicity, and that particular issue was handled very well. And yes, and the staff now they are working in a very harmonious way. Yes, we have certain employees who've been released, who've been terminated. Their contracts have been terminated. Some of them being probably they come to work drunk, and they do not relate well with their supervisors, or let's say they absent themselves. So by those factors, they've been released. They have undergone the due process, the disciplinary processes, and they've been released. Yes, my advice will be just understand the situation, understand why there's that toxicity. Just try to dig deeper and understand why am I going through this, and also try to see what you can do first of all from your part to avoid the toxicity before escalating it to the superiors. Try to understand why am I dealing with this, why is this happening to me. First of all, address it yourself. Because we have a very broad staff base, such cases have been there, and the matters have been dealt with using legal means, and the staff who've been found culpable of the sexual harassment, they've been terminated. Yes. First of all, the employee, because of the toxicity, might absent himself. And then if the person absents himself, then no work is done. So basically, it affects the department as a whole and also the institution as a whole, because the person is not available at his workstation and also is not able to perform his duties as he or she is supposed to do. With their bosses, first of all, you have to understand your boss, know what kind of a person he or she is, and also know where your boundaries are, and also try to ensure that you do things right, do whatever you've been told the right way, and also on a timely manner that will avoid any kind of toxicity with your supervisor. In the other issue, let's say of salaries, the best way we can say is just plan yourself. It's hard at times to have delayed salaries because you have so many commitments, but planning ahead, knowing that probably the institution is not very stable financially, planning yourself ahead of time it will go a long way to help you to avoid such situations that you don't have enough, let's say, cash to come to work and also to sort yourselves out.
The importance of a healthy work environment cannot be overlooked, as it generally leads to effectiveness at the workplace and allows an employee to grow and be creative, hence more productive. A healthy environment leads to a more productive employee, healthy individual, relationships, families, and definitely a healthier society.
My name is David Wainaina, and I say yes to promoting a healthy work environment.
My name is Esther, and I say yes to promote a healthy work environment.
My name is Lillian, a technician, and I say yes to healthy working environment.
My name is Fanuel, and I say yes to promoting a healthy work environment.